Morning time, we are headed to California. It's like 4:30, we are packed, we are ready, waiting on Carrie to come pick us up. She's running late, not surprising. Okay, so we almost missed the flight because we were super late, but we're on the flight and getting ready to head out to LA. Ready? Are you finally ready, Grace?
No.
No, we're always late.
I have to put my face on in the car.
Your face is already on.
I don't have a face on.
Oh, I think you're beautiful like that.
Thanks.
Do I get brownie points?
No.
Oh.
You have to say that.
Oh. Okay. Really cool things, and probably my most favorite thing about doing these expos and getting in front of people is when you really get to see them kind of get it, when they start to understand what it is that you're trying to say, and it's something that they can take home and really work with their horse right away. That's probably my most favorite, is that aha moment, more than just people kind of nodding their heads in agreement, but that that moment that they realize that maybe either what they've been doing is either wrong or even just how they can change themselves to be better. And that's what's been kind of so fantastic about weekends like this, is we get that opportunity to see that. Well, we made it back in the room. We are finished for the weekend. We are exhausted. It's been a really great weekend. Had a lot of fun in California so far. We've got a clinic coming up next weekend. Tomorrow, though, we're sleeping in. Are you excited about sleeping in?
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
That probably means I'll wake up at 7 a.m.
It's time to go to bed, that's for sure.
Night.
So we're finally awake, well rested from our long trip or long weekend at the Expo. Now we're going to try and do some touristy stuff. I think we're going to go visit the Hollywood sign. Both Grace and I have never seen that. Wanted to reflect back upon our weekend. We always hear interesting stories, from people, and some of them we remember, some of them we don't. We do talk to a lot of people, but there was one story for me in one of the demos that, you always hear about people doing these things, but you don't always
hear it from them?
You don't always hear it from them. You just hear from like a friend of a friend. And so like the one story was in the demo, the person said to me that, she says, well, what would you do if you were riding a 4-year-old Morgan that has had only 120 days of professional training? What would you do if you were on the side of a cliff and the horse starts getting really anxious and you're having to dodge trees that are out on the cliff and blah, 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 blah. And it was one of those things that I was waiting for a punchline for her to kind of get to that point where she's like, just kidding, didn't actually do that. But there was no punchline. She really meant that this is what she was doing. And I'm not making fun of her by any means. I just was shocked. It was that opportunity to see this really still happens. People still do that. And of course,
and by do that he means put themselves in that type of situation with a horse.
Yeah, they put themselves in a situation that is going to put them at risk, and their safety is now going to be at risk the whole time. So I was just shocked about that. And of course, the first thing I said was, why in the hell were you on the side of a cliff with a horse that's only had 120 days riding? I mean, plain and simple, you just don't do it. So she says, what do you do if you're on doing that? I just wouldn't be there. That's just plain and simple the truth there. But it was just interesting. That was one of my favorite stories from the weekend.
Something else came up, and that was, you know, we sell our bitless halter, and it's not for everybody, and it's not for every horse. In fact, some of our horses don't go in our bitless. We keep them in a bitted headstall for various reasons. And so we don't try to sell our bitless as a fix-all or as the best bitless out there. It's just an option, and it's an option that we liked for various reasons. So I think one of my favorite things that happens far too often is that people will come up to us at expos and they'll say, well, tell me, my horse doesn't stop. How is your bitless going to help my horse stop?
Yeah, it's a pretty common one.
Or my horse won't turn and I can hardly get it to do a one rein stop. How is your bitless gonna make my horse stop?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of my favorite questions, and I don't always have the best answer, because the answer is train your horse to stop. Like, teach them to stop.
Yeah.
No headstall is just gonna magically put brakes on your horse.
I think we always tell people there's no such thing as a miracle product. I mean, a lot of people like to bit up, of course. I'm sure most people have heard of it before. They like to bit up, go a heavier bit, stronger bit to be able to get a horse to stop, of course. And while you can, you know, stop that horse potentially with a bigger bit, the downside to that is you're not actually fixing the problem. You're just kind of putting a band-aid over the solution. Or over the problem type thing. I don't like to bit up as a general rule. The answer really does come down to making sure that you do your training to actually get there, because if you don't do your training, then really no product in the world is going to help you.
I know when leaving our last expo, so not this one, I know when leaving our last one, you had a lot of thoughts toward horsemanship in general.
So one of the things that we always talk about with horsemanship is it's not the horse's job to change and come to you and for the horse to modify their behavior to fit your personality or what you want. It is actually your job to come to them and learn to talk in their communication skills versus your own. I think that's one of the misconceptions, like with natural horsemanship, is we try to train the horse as natural as possible, but the fact of the matter is there's nothing natural about working with the horse. So I think it's really important that we just understand that horsemanship is solely you as a human learning to communicate in their language, because you shouldn't have to try and train the horse to communicate with you. It's the other way around, and that's just kind of something that's really, really important to us and our methodology.
I think that brings me to methodology. Maybe
we're gonna make it a word. It's a
I
word
think
now.
that brings me to a point that I talked a lot about to some really young riders at this expo, and I know you were there for some of them. And my piece of advice for people that want to go intern and apprentice under people, I think you should intern under as many people as possible. Show barns, not show barns, I think you should intern with everybody, because you're gonna learn good and bad, and the bad to learn is just as important as the good things to learn. Piece of advice that I gave everybody, which was what he was just talking about: don't settle for a trainer that won't change their methods and their training techniques for each individual horse. You cannot train 100 horses the exact same way.
What about 99 of them?
I mean, maybe like 50 of them.
50? That's the number. That's a magic
like
number.
Maybe.
Okay.
But you can't, just like, so we're parents, we have a 3- and an 8-year-old boy, and they are complete opposites of each other. I can't parent the 3-year-old the same way I would parent my 8-year-old, you know, and I can't train my horse the exact same way that I could train his horse, because they're all different, and they've all got different personalities, and they all process things a bit different, and that's okay. That's the beauty of working with horses. But don't settle for a trainer or a clinician or an instructor that won't change their ways for each horse.
By the way, a side note, being on the West Coast, we went to the first time visiting In-N-Out Burger. It's pretty good. I would recommend it.
You don't even like the milkshake you're drinking.
Okay, well, I don't like the milkshake, but the burger was delicious. I got nothing else to drink. I think we should digress. This has been talk time with the Purdums.
Oh, I like that.
Hopefully you guys picked up something from today, and thanks guys for watching.
I should have my own vlog.
No, that'd be boring.
Oh, it would be so fun.
Nobody would want to.
Everybody would want to watch.